He doesn't care about the hostages. He's using the hostages to prolong an unneeded war. We can go all along of Netanyahu's sabotaging deals against army recommendation, against any expert, against the Israeli public. Most of the cabinet members have no idea of military operations, so they have no idea what's going on there. Putting Gazian civilians under hunger will not help the issue, only ending the war.
Facing objections both from the world and his own generals, Israel's Prime Minister Netanyahu has approved plans for a gradual takeover of the Gaza Strip over the next few months. This has caused outrage not just internationally, but within Israel, as families of those held there fear this offensive could end their chances of reuniting with their loved ones. Among those voicing these fears is Yehuda Cohen, father of 20-year-old Nimrod Cohen, who was taken captive by Hamas while on duty at an army base in southern Israel on the 7th of October 2023. Mr. Cohen, thank you so much for speaking with Middle East Eye. I really appreciate you making the time today.
Thank you. Just a small correction. He was kidnapped when he was 19. He's 21 now, my son Nimrod. Time is passing.
It definitely has been 22 months since the start of the war, marked yesterday. So on that grim anniversary yesterday, we heard the news that Israel's security cabinet had approved this new plan. What was your reaction to this news?
Most of the cabinet members have no idea of military operations. Most of them did not serve in the army, so they have no idea what's going on there. Of course, we are appalled by this decision, but I'm not surprised because Netanyahu's policy is only coming from his own personal interest, political interest. He doesn't care about the hostages even more than that. He's using the hostages to prolong an unneeded war that is killing soldiers and killing civilians for his continuous throne, his continuous position as a prime minister. This operation, if it will come out, will endanger hostages, will endanger my son himself too.
You mentioned that you believe Netanyahu is continuing this war not for strategic objectives, but for the purposes of his own power. How did you reach that conclusion?
We know it from the start, but from the start there was a need to do some operations in Gaza. From the beginning in October 23 until something around February 24, after ending the big operation in Khan Yunis. But since then, we saw that everything was stalling. He was threatening, we'll go into Rafah, we'll go into Rafah. Everybody said no, he said yes. 4 months he stole it, and after starting a deal, it was in May, Hamas returned its answers. Instead of negotiating on that, Netanyahu just ordered the army to start maneuvering in Rafah. So that was the beginning. We can go all along of Netanyahu's sabotaging deals. Other example was at the beginning of September, leaking confidential documents to foreign media, the German Bild, trying to frighten everybody that Sinwar has decided to smuggle hostages underneath the Philadelphia corridor into Egypt and Iran. This was after he was putting another obstacle, which was not on the negotiation, which was the Philadelphia corridor. All along, he was leaking information from the negotiation, and he was limiting the Israeli negotiation party. And he was the only one who was insisting on going to a partial deal and not a full deal, meaning he was the one insisting that we'll take some hostages out, but will not end the war. So he was going all along, prolonging the war against army recommendation, against any expert, against the Israeli public. Today, more than 80% of the Israeli public are for ending the war and getting a hostage deal. So he's working against everyone except himself and his extremists in the coalition, the ones that want to permanently conquer Gaza and rebuild settlements there. So it's pretty much transparent, it's pretty much obvious. Netanyahu wants to continue the war to protect his position. No time for asking questions, no time for investigations.
When you haven't felt acknowledged by the government, you've tried to go around them. You've met with figures like the ICC chief prosecutor, Karim Khan, to discuss potentially using those arrest warrants against Netanyahu to kind of, ensure that he sees through that short-lived ceasefire he later broke in March. What motivated you to do that?
Well, first of all, the ICC is not against Israel. This is the kind of narrative that the Israeli government tried to put out. Everyone who is against one of the Israeli ministers or the prime minister is doing it because of anti-Semitism, which is a lie. In those days, we tried to use the ICC warrants to push Netanyahu to go to ceasefire and get a hostage deal. In Trump era, the ICC power is gone down a little bit. We did believe that Trump is going to help us get the hostages. He started something in January, February, but after that, the feeling is it's more to protect Netanyahu than to end the wars. I mean, more than 8 months, talks, but no action. And you see that he's either supporting Netanyahu or saying, I have no opinion. I'm trying to support the declaration of the European countries, France, UK, Canada, other European countries that are for declaring a Palestinian state in September in the UN. This could be another channel to press Netanyahu, force Netanyahu to go to a hostage deal. Another thing is, if this thing will proceed, we want to be in it because we want to be making sure that part of this Palestinian recognition, it has to go through ending the war, which will be going through a hostage deal. There are talks of putting sanction on Israel, canceling agreements, economic agreements between Israel and the European Union. I promote that too. Anything that would get rid of this government, this I call it cancer, that is working against Israel, against public opinion in Israel, against the civilians themselves, sending soldiers to die for the throne of Netanyahu. So anything from the outside that will put our country in a stress so big that Netanyahu will just drop down so somebody else could come and heal this country, starting by ending this needless war in Gaza, getting a hostage deal, and so forth.
You seem very sure that the government, Netanyahu's government, or its strategy in Gaza doesn't represent the wishes of the majority of Israelis. Although we're seeing growing resistance and decreasing mobilization, we're not seeing the mass refusal that would signal real unpopularity of this war.
There is an opposition to the war going on in Gaza, mainly for Israeli interests, not for Palestinian interests. People in Israel are not for peace, are for separation. Maybe peace will come after. Personally, yes, I think the two-state solution is a solution that have to come at the end of this long flow. That must start with ending the war in a hostage deal. And then separation, etc., etc.
It's very easy to talk about lofty, big political ideas in the future, but there's immediate priorities. While this suffering is going on, we saw really shocking videos released by Hamas of these emaciated captives. And I can't help but wonder, what was your reaction when you see just images like that?
They are being starved on purpose, a kind of revenge, a kind of pressure on our government. We have two sides of it. We have Hamas, nothing to say about Hamas as a terrorist organization. I have no expectation. No one has any expectation. And that's why I blame my prime minister, because there's no expectation for Hamas on the one hand. The responsibility is on the prime minister. That's why he's the prime minister. And he has to do it. And putting the Gazian civilians under hunger will not help the issue. Only ending the war. It's good for the hostages. It's good for the Israeli nation, and I'm part of the Israeli nation. And it's good for the region, which means us, the Palestinians, all our neighboring countries. It's good for security.
Hopefully, the Israeli government will reach that same conclusion in due course. Mr. Yehuda Cohen, thank you so much for speaking to Middle East Eye. I know this is a very painful and traumatic time for you. Thank you so much.
Thank you for letting me put my words. Thank you.